Welcome back to our Beatrice YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to learn how to make this beautiful pencil skirt with asymmetric crisscross. It has like a lacing design at the center front, as you can see, and it's very simple to make and it's really beautiful. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start by drafting on my paper. You can actually cut this direct on your fabric, but because of the design at the front, because of the lapel, the overlap at the front, that's why I'm drafting here so that we can get it well. So for the skirt, it's just a basic skirt. This is my starting point, which is also going to be my waistline. This is my hip measurement. Hip line is a high waist skirt, so this is my hip line. My hip is my hip line, where you have your hip bone, where you're going to take your round hip measurement. And this is going to be the full length of my skirt. It's going to be 21.5 inches long. Okay, so this excess that I have here is what I'm going to be using to create my lapel. It's not going to be part of my full skirt length. So for the excess, my actual skirt length is 21.5, so I added around 5.5 inches to that, so it leaves it at 27 inches. So because this space is not going to be part of my basic skirt, I'm just going to fold it like this so that I can bring it out when I need to work with it. I hope you understand. So this is the skirt length that we need for now. So I'm going to start on my waistline here. So on the waistline, I'm going to work with my waist measurement. The waist I'm working with is 33 inches. So the 33 inches that I'm working with, I'll divide that into 4, and whatever I have there is the measurements I'm going to take. So here I have about 8.5 inches. So I'm going to come here now and mark that 8.25 actually. So I'm marking that here. So I'm going to place a dart of 1 inch. That's half an inch on both sides. So I'll add that dart allowance, and then I'm going to add 1 inch for my seam allowance. So here I'm going to come to my hip line. I'll take my round hip measurement. The round hip I'm working with is 44 inches. Divided by 4 is 11. So here I'm going to mark the 11 inches, and here I'm going to add the 1 inch seam allowance. So from my waist now, I'm going to go ahead and connect to my hip. So it's a short skirt, it's not long, and I'm not going to have like slits on it, so I don't want it too tight. So here you can just maintain what you have here on your hip or the hem as well, or you just deduct a little from it. So if you're deducting 1 inch from this, it means you're going to remove 4 inches from your waist. Remember, we divided our measurements by 4. So for me, I'm just going to deduct like half an inch from this measurement. So my hip is actually 11. I added 1 inch. That makes it 12 inches. So here I'm going to mark 11.5 on the hem, which means I'm deducting 2 inches from my actual hip measurements, and then I'm going to connect it like this. So please get a really nice cut to do this. So this is what I have now. I'm just blending everything over there. Okay, so now that we are done with that, here I'm going to come here and insert my bust span measurement, also known as your nipple to nipple, from my dart. So here I'm going to mark it there, and for the dart leg I'm going to come down by 5.5 inches. I will mark my bust span there again so that I can have a straight line, and the 1 inch allowance that I left, I'm going to mark half an inch on both sides for my dart, and then I'll connect it to the dart leg. So I'll go ahead now and cut this on my fabric first before we modify this pattern for the lapel. So when you're cutting the back excuse me, when you're cutting the back, you had your zipper allowance to it. Remember, this does not have a zipper allowance yet. If you feel that this folding is going to affect what you want to do, you can extend it, but it's not going to affect anything for me. So I'll just cut it while it's still on fold like this.
So now I'll place this on my fabric and cut it out for my front and back. So remember, for the back you had your zipper allowance. So after cutting it, I'll bring it back so that we can extend this now and create the design in front. So I have cut it out on my fabric. Now this is the front and this is the back. You can see that I have my allowance for zipper at the back. So I'm going to set the front and back aside, and then I'll bring back my pattern. So now I'm going to open it. When you're drafting this, you make sure that your pattern is on fold, okay, because the design is on the two sides. So I'm going to open up my pattern like this and then extend the measurement. Okay, so after extending it, this is my center front. I can see the crease line here, so I'm just going to mark it out so that it can be obvious. This crease line is very important. So here is my center front. Okay, so now for this design, you're going to determine where you want the design to be, where once it's placed on the side. It's not going to get up to my dart point, but from my center front, I'm just going to mark like 1.5 to 2 inches to the side like this. Okay, that's for the long part. So you can see how I have marked it there. And then you also need to determine where your lacing is going to stop. That's where you stop making holes for your eyelet. So it can be on your hip point like this, or you can just extend it a little below the hip point. So for me, I think I'm just going to extend it a little bit below my hip line. So I'll leave it at around 11 inches, which is here. So on that point, I'm going to mark 2 inches again, and then I'm going to connect just like this. So after connecting it like this, okay, so after connecting it up to here, depending on how you want your design to go, I'm going to come back to my hem, to the actual hem. Remember, this is the extension. So here from the center front again, I'm going to come inwards by around 1 inch, or depending on how you want your design to go. And then so from where the eyelet point is going to stop here, I'm going to slant to the hem. So by the time I cut it to this point, it's going to even extend more for me. So you can use a straight ruler like this, or you can use a slightly curved ruler if you want it to be a little curved. So you just make sure it meets at this point and this point, and then wherever it meets on this point is fine for me. So I just don't want it to be too straight. That's why I'm using this. So from there now, I'm going to connect like this. You can see that. So from this new point now, I'm going to connect it to the side. So from your extension, you're going to connect back to your actual measurements. Remember, we're going to be sewing this to the side. So here I'm just going to mark out the allowance, the 1 inch allowance that I used for the dress, and then from there I'm going to connect back to the hem like this. Okay, so we're done with making the first side. So now we'll move to the second side. So now after moving to the second side, you need to mark the space that you want to have in between your eyelets. Okay, you need to mark the space that you want to have for your eyelet. So for me, around 2 to 4 inches is fine. So I'll just mark 3 inches. So I'm marking it from where, not from the center front, from where my extension for this side, from where it starts. So from there I'm going to mark 3 inches, and then I'll make that into a straight line. So again, the length of this is going to be the same 11 inches that I used for this. Okay, so here I'm marking that just like this as well. So now I'm going to shape this other side to anywhere you want on this side. So you can use your curve as a guide, but it necessarily does not have to be so long. So I'm just going to place the curve somewhere here, and then I'm going to draw a line, or you can also use your free hand to do this. So here now you can see how I just used my cup to curve it out. So that is the design that I'm going to go for. So now I'll grab my scissors and then I'll cut out this shape. So this is the long part, that's the first one. So when you're cutting this on your fabric, you have to be very sure of the part that you are placing on your right side, because of the side that you want the design to be. So you have to be mindful of that when you are placing to cut out on your fabric. Okay, so this is the long one and here is the short one. So if you don't want the extension to be this long, you can just connect something like this. Okay, it's totally up to you. What you need is the part that you're going to be fixing your eyelet, so it doesn't have to be so long anyways. So on this side I'm going to connect and cut out like this as well. So these are the two patterns that I need, and you're going to be placing your eyelets somewhere here. So I'll go ahead and cut this on my fabric as well, and then I'm going to cut lining for all of them and bring it back to show us how to sew it. So I cut out my lining for it, and then I just use the lining to turn out each piece neatly. So this is the front, you can see that it is wide, and these are the two back pieces. I have also turned it out with my lining and then I ironed them. So these are my two back pieces. So for the designs, I also cut lining for it just like I explained, and then I turned it out. So this is the two sides. So what I'm going to do is to bring the front piece forward like this, and then I'm going to pin the design on it. So this side goes with this side, and then this side goes with this side as well. So you can see the space, the 3 inches space that we left in between them, and the extension that we have here. So if you want yours to be longer than this, you just need to increase the measurements you're working with. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it down, or you can just hold this with a stitch on the waistline, and then I'll take my dart. That's because I cut this together with the dart, the lapel, the overlap. Okay, if you don't want that on your overlap, you must have removed it while you're cutting. So here now I'll just notch where I'm going to place my dart, and then go ahead and take that for the two sides, and then I'll do the same thing for the back as well. So after taking my dart, I'm going to go ahead and join it on the sides. Then I'll bring it back for us to show us how to place the band. Okay, so you can see I have sewn it. I've taken in all the darts, as you can see, and then I sew it by the 1 inch that I used for my seam allowance by the sides. So here is the center back still opened, and that is where I'm going to be passing my zipper. So this is the front. So here I'm going to be making eyelets by the 2 flaps that I have in front here, so that I can lace it up. And then now you're going to use your waist measurement to cut out your band. I have already cut one, and then I added stay on it, air stay, and then I folded it into 2. So my band is around 2 inches. So you have to put that in mind when you're drafting your skirt. Okay, so this band is around 1.75 inches in height. So you cut that on fold, and then you add your seam allowance to it. So now what I'm going to do now is to, you can see that I have folded in one end, and then the other allowance is still here. So I'll place this part that is not folded on the wrong side like this, so that I can flip to the right side. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So what I want to do by the time I am done, I want this folded part here to rest on the right side, so that I can easily top stitch on it. So that is why I am placing like this and sewing this part for, so that I can flip this over. So I'll go ahead and sew the band to it. Then after sewing in my band and closing it up, I'll fix a zipper at the back and then I'll bring it back to show us, and then I'll also fix my eyelet in front.
Okay, so this is what it looks like. I have gone ahead to make my eyelets on the hole, you can see, and then I also fixed band on the waistline. So you just put a rope to tie the crisscross design that you have there. You can see the asymmetric design that we have there as well. You can make it as long as you want. I hope you enjoy making this beautiful tutorial with me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.